Hello students, welcome to lesson 2 on angle of elevation and depression. I hope you are all doing well. Good. In lesson 1, we looked at the definition of angle of elevation and depression, and we also learned that with the same line of sight, the angle of elevation is the same as the angle of depression because they are alternate angles. Good. Now, in this lesson, we are going to apply the definition of angle of elevation in determining the height of objects and distance between objects. Good. So, let's begin. Right. Now, under angle of elevation and depression, there are a variety of questions that can be asked, from simple to more challenging ones. Okay, now we'll begin with the simplest of all, and as we move on in our subsequent lesson, we then deal with the more challenging ones. Okay, good. So let's begin with example 1. Now it reads, from a point A, 30 meters from the foot of a flagpole on flat ground, the angle of elevation of the top of the pole is 43 degrees. Find the height of the pole correct to the nearest meter. Right, so this is our question. Now, the first thing for you to do when you get the question is to read to understand. Okay, so we are going to read our question again in order to understand. Right, so let's read. From a point A, 30 meters from the foot of a flagpole on flat ground, the angle of elevation of the top of the pole is 43 degrees. Find the height of the pole correct to the nearest meter. Good. So we have read our question and we have understood it. Right. The next thing is to visualize the scenario being described in the question. Right. So have a picture of what is being described. Then you draw a diagram of it using lines. Okay, so after reading, visualizing, you then draw a diagram of it using lines. Right, now to enable you draw the diagram, you have to apply the definition of angle of elevation in determining the point of observation and the object. So let me take it again. In order to draw the diagram, you have to apply the definition of angle of elevation in determining the point of observation and the object. So in our question, it reads, from a point A. So it means that our point of observation is what? A. So from a point A, 30 meters from the foot of a flagpole on flat ground, the angle of elevation of the top, so here our object is what? The top of the pole. Our object is the top of the pole, is 43 degrees. So this is the value of what? Angle of elevation. So these are the key things you need in order to draw the diagram. You need your point of observation and the object. Right. So now that we have identified our point of observation and the object with our value of angle of elevation, let's now proceed by drawing the diagram. Good. So we should have a point A. So that is our point A. And our point A is 30 meters from the foot of the pole. So from the foot of the pole, A is 30 meters. Then we need the pole. So this is our pole. Now, the A is our point of observation. The top of the pole is what? Our object. So we have to connect the point of observation to the object. Good. So we have our line of sight. So now, let's complete the labeling. So this is B, this is C. I hope you are with me. Good. So this is the diagram. So now let's put in the values given in the question. Good. So the angle of elevation was given as what? 43 degrees. And then the distance from the what? The point of observation is what? 30 meters. So we have our 30 meters. Right. Good. So that is what we have. This is a complete diagram, well labeled. Okay, good. Now, BC is what? The height of the pole. So to make our work simpler, we need just a single letter to represent it. So we are using H. Right. So now, H is the height. The distance is what? 30 meters. And we have our angle of elevation, which is what? 43 degrees. So now, the next thing you have to do after getting your well-labeled diagram is to look for the appropriate trig ratio that connects the height of the pole, okay, and the what? The distance from what? From the foot of what? Of the pole. So what trig ratio connects this and then the angle? Now you realize that the height is what? Opposite to the what? The angle 43 degrees. And 30 is what? Adjacent to what? To 43 degrees. So what appropriate trig ratio do we need? Tan. Good. Tan. So we are going to use what? Tan theta, because tan theta is what? Opposite over adjacent. So we are going to have tan 43 degrees. And it's equal to what? Our H, which is opposite, over what? Our 30, which is what? The adjacent. So tan 43 degrees is equal to H over 30. Now we have to make H the subject. So we do that by multiplying through by what? By 30. Good. So our H will be equal to 30 tan 43. Good. So our H is equal to 30 tan 43. Now we will need the calculator. So let's get our calculator. Good. So we have our calculator. So we'll punch what we see there on the calculator. So we need 30 tan 43. So 30 tan 43. So equal to. Right. Now, the calculator has given us the answer. Now here, what you have to take note of is that anytime you have a decimal where the digit is more than 4, it is appropriate and acceptable to approximate it to 4 decimal places. So here, the numbers after the decimal point is more than 4. So we have to approximate to 4 decimal places to help us deal with what? Our calculation. So we have here 27.9754. So we've gotten to the 4th decimal place. But we have to look at the next number. It is 5. So we have to add 1 to what? To the 4. So we are now going to have 27.9755. 27.9755. Good. So let's do that. So our H is going to be 27.9755. Okay, 27.9755. So this is our height. But the question said we should approximate to what? To the nearest meter. So 27.9755 to the nearest meter is going to be what? 28. Good. Because when you this is your whole number part, which is 27. So after the decimal point, the number here is what? More than 5. So you add 1 to the 7 so that you get what? 28. So our H is going to be what? 28. Good. So 28 what? Meters. So therefore, the height of the pole is what? 28 meters. Right. So students, this is the solution to our example 1. Now, you have to conclude on your answer. The question asked us to find the height of the pole to the nearest meter. So you need a statement to conclude that. So you write, therefore, the height of the pole is 28 meters. Good. Now you are done. Okay, right. So let's move on to the second example. Example 2. So it reads, the angle of elevation of the top of a cliff from a boat is 36 degrees. If the cliff is 100 meters high, find the distance of the boat from the foot of the cliff to the nearest meter. Good. So as we did in example 1, you read the question to understand, you visualize it, and then you draw a diagram. So to enable us draw the diagram, we have to use the definition of angle of elevation to get the point of observation and the object. So let's use the definition to get our point of observation and object from the question. So it says the angle of elevation of the top of a cliff. So here the object is what? The top of the cliff. The top of the cliff. From what? A boat. From what? A boat. So it means that our object is the top of the cliff, and then our point of observation is what? Is the boat. So object is top of the cliff, point of observation is what? Is the boat. And the value of angle of elevation is giving us what? 36 degrees. Good. So it says if the cliff is what? 100 meters what? High. So we have the height of the cliff here also. Okay, good. So now we have identified our point of observation and the object, and we have our value. We have the height of the cliff. So now let's draw the diagram. Good. So we'll need a boat. So this is our boat. Okay, then we'll need the cliff. So this is the cliff. Now we have to get the distance from the boat to the what? The foot of the cliff. This is it. So we then have to join the point of observation to the object in order to get our line of sight. This is it. Okay, good. So now let's complete the labeling. So this is A, this is C. Okay, good. So now let's substitute the values that were given in the diagram. So here the height of the cliff was what? 100. Okay, and this will be our 90 degree. Okay, I hope you are following. Good. Now the angle of elevation was giving us what? 36 degrees. Good. So this is the complete diagram we have. Now also you realize that the distance from the boat to the foot of the cliff is AB. But to make our work simpler, we have to what? Label it with a single letter. So here we'll use what? X. Okay, good. So the next thing is to look for the appropriate trig ratio that connects what you were given and what you are finding. Okay, so here the 100 is opposite to the 36, and then the X is what? Adjacent to the 36. So which trig ratio will be appropriate? Tan. Good. So now tan 36 degrees will be equal to opposite, which is 100, over adjacent, which is what? X. So here also we have to make X the subject. So we do that by multiplying through by what? By X. So we are going to have X tan 36 degrees equals what? 100. Good. So making X the subject, we divide both sides by what? Tan 36. So our X is going to be 100 over tan 36. Okay, 100 over tan 36 degrees. So here we will need the calculator. So let's get our calculator. Good. So we have to punch the same thing as we see there. So we have 100 as the numerator. Sorry. Good. And then our denominator will be what? Tan 36. So let's close it. So we have 100 as the numerator and tan 36 as the denominator. Good. Right. So here we are getting 137.638192. So as I said, you approximate to 4 decimal place. So we are now going to have 137.6382. 137.6382. Good. So let's put that down. So our x is equal to 137.6382. Okay, so meters. Good. Now here also the question says we should find the distance to the nearest meter. So to the nearest meter we are going to have 138, because after the decimal point the number here is what? More than 5. So our x is going to be what? 138 meters. So x is equal to 138 meters. So we have to conclude. Therefore, the distance from the boat to the foot of the cliff is 138 meters. Good. So students, this is the solution to the second example. Right. So we would end here, okay, and continue the next time. Right. You know I will not leave you without an assignment. Okay. So I have 2 assignments for you. Look at it and then try your hands on it. The next time we meet, we'll look at it before we begin our lesson. Right. So this is the first question. It's not difficult at all. Very simple. And this is the second question. Alright. So students, till we meet again, revise, read ahead. Bye.